I'm sitting at my mama's kitchen table on a random Tuesday afternoon when my phone rings. It's my cousin, Tasha, and she's already screaming before I even say hello. Girl, you are not going to believe what Grandma Joyce just did. Now, when somebody starts a conversation like that about your grandmother, you know you're about to hear some mess. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for what came out of Tasha's mouth next. She put Big Mama's Soul Food Kitchen in her boyfriend's name. I dropped my coffee mug. It shattered all over my mama's clean floor. But I didn't even care. Big Mama's Soul Food Kitchen wasn't just a restaurant. It was our legacy. My great-grandmother started that place in 1967 with nothing but a hot plate, a dream, and the best fried chicken recipe this side of the Mississippi. 4 generations of black excellence, blood, sweat, and turkey grease went into that establishment. And Grandma Joyce just gave it away to some man? What do you mean she put it in his name? I'm practically yelling now. My mama comes running from the living room thinking something's wrong, but I wave her off. Who is this man? How long has she even been dating him? Tasha sucked her teeth so hard I could feel it through the phone. Girl, that's the thing. We don't know. She met him at the senior center 2 months ago, and now she's acting like he's the second coming of Denzel Washington mixed with Barack Obama and a little bit of Idris Elba on the side. 2 months. 2 months. And she signed over a restaurant that took our family 56 years to build. His name is Earl, Tasha continued. Earl Jenkins. And get this, he drives a 1987 Buick with a missing hubcap, wears the same velour tracksuit every time we see him, and claims he used to be a business consultant but can't tell us for which businesses. This was bad. This was real bad. We're having an emergency family meeting at Thanksgiving dinner, Tasha said. Everybody's gonna be there. We need to figure out how to get that restaurant back before Earl turns Big Mama's into Earl's Chicken Shack or something equally disrespectful. Wait, Thanksgiving? That's next week. Can't we do this sooner? Girl, you know how the family is. Trying to get everybody together any other time is like herding cats. But Thanksgiving? Everybody shows up for Grandma's sweet potato pie. It's the perfect time to confront her. I couldn't argue with that logic. Our family took Thanksgiving seriously. It was the one day a year when all the cousins, aunties, uncles, and relatives you forgot you had came together under one roof to eat too much, argue about politics, and judge each other's life choices. Adding, "Save the family business from Grandma's questionable boyfriend" to the agenda seemed oddly appropriate. Fine, I said. But somebody needs to do some research on this Earl character before then. We need to know exactly who we're dealing with. Already on it, Tasha replied. I got my girl Keisha running a background check. She works at the DMV and owes me a favor. This is why Tasha was my favorite cousin. She was always 3 steps ahead. The next week crawled by like molasses. Every day, I got a new text from various family members weighing in on the situation. My Uncle Raymond sent a long voice note about how these young bucks are always trying to take advantage of our beautiful black queens in their golden years. Uncle Raymond was 52, Earl was 67, but facts weren't Raymond's strong suit. My Aunt Patricia, who fancied herself the family lawyer despite only having watched every episode of Law and Order twice, sent a group text with the subject line, "Legal Options Re." Grandma's terrible decision. The text was 12 paragraphs long and included words like fiduciary responsibility and power of attorney that I'm pretty sure she'd just Googled 5 minutes before. My little cousin Marcus, who was 19 and thought he was a philosopher because he took 1 semester of community college, sent a cryptic text that just said, "But have we considered that Grandma is living her truth?" I blocked him immediately. This was not the time for his woke nonsense. The day before Thanksgiving, Tasha called with an update. Girl, Keisha came through with the tea and it is piping hot. I put her on speaker and grabbed a notepad. I'm ready. Tell me everything. Okay. So Earl Jenkins, age 67, originally from Detroit, moved to our city 3 years ago. He's been married 4 times. 4 times, girl! Jesus! Take the wheel. Wait, it gets better. All 4 marriages ended in divorce, and in 3 of them, there were disputes about property and finances. In 2 cases, his ex-wives filed restraining orders. My stomach dropped. Restraining orders? For what? Harassment and threats related to money. Apparently, Earl doesn't like to let go of assets even after the divorce is finalized. One ex-wife said he tried to claim her grandmother's antique jewelry collection as marital property, even though she'd inherited it before they even met. This man was a professional con artist, and he had his hooks in my grandmother. There's more, Tasha continued. Earl has an LLC registered in his name called Jenkins Enterprises, but when Keisha tried to find out what kind of business it is, there's no actual business activity. No tax records, no employees, nothing. It's just a shell company, so he uses it to hide assets, I said, the pieces clicking together. He probably convinced Grandma to put the restaurant in his name for tax purposes or to protect it or some other smooth-talking nonsense. Exactly. And here's the thing that really gets me. You know how Grandma always says she met him at the senior center? Yeah. Girl, Earl doesn't go to the senior center for the activities. He goes there to scope out lonely widows with assets. The rec center director told Keisha that Earl has been friendly with at least 3 other women there in the past year, and all of them had property or savings. I was so mad I could spit. So, he's literally a predator who targets elderly black women. A whole scammer. And tomorrow, he's going to be sitting at our Thanksgiving table, eating our food, probably planning his next move. Not if I have anything to say about it, I said. Tasha, we need to be strategic about this. If we come at Grandma too hard, she's going to get defensive and dig her heels in. You know how she is. Facts. Grandma Joyce is stubborn as a mule with a PhD in being difficult. We spent the next hour crafting our plan. We'd let dinner unfold naturally at first, get Earl comfortable, and then slowly start asking pointed questions. Get him to reveal himself. And if that didn't work, we had the background check information as a nuclear option. Thanksgiving morning arrived with the kind of chaos that only a black family gathering can produce. I got to Grandma's house at 9 a.m., and there were already 12 people there. My mama was in the kitchen frying chicken and arguing with Aunt Patricia about whether you're supposed to put sugar in cornbread. Uncle Raymond was setting up tables in the backyard and giving everybody unsolicited advice about table arrangement. My cousin Marcus was in the corner on his phone, probably tweeting something pretentious about colonialism and Turkey. And then there was Grandma Joyce. At 73 years old, my grandmother was still one of the most beautiful women I'd ever seen. She had smooth, dark skin that defied every law of aging, silver hair that she kept in an elegant updo, and style for days. Today she was wearing a purple dress with matching shoes and a pearl necklace, looking like she was about to have Thanksgiving dinner with the Obamas instead of our crazy family. But there was something different about her. She was glowing, and not the regular grandma glow. This was the I'm in love and y'all can't tell me nothing glow. Hey, baby. She hugged me tight, smelling like Chanel, 5, and wisdom. I'm so glad you're here early. I need you to help me set the good china out. Earl is coming, and I want everything to be perfect. There it was. Earl's name said with the kind of reverence usually reserved for Jesus or Beyoncé. Grandma, we need to talk about Earl, I started, but she cut me off with a wave of her hand. Baby, not today. Today is about family and blessings and good food. We can talk about Earl after dinner when your stomach is full and your heart is open. That was Grandma's way of saying, don't start no mess at my Thanksgiving table. I respected it, but I also knew that after dinner we were having a serious conversation. By noon, the house was packed. And I mean packed. There were people I hadn't seen since the last family reunion, people I didn't even know we were related to, and at least 3 people who definitely weren't family but showed up anyway because they heard about Grandma's cooking. Tasha pulled me aside in the hallway. He's here. We peeked around the corner into the living room. And there he was, Earl Jenkins in all his velour tracksuit-wearing glory. But here's the thing. He didn't look like what I expected. I'd built him up in my mind as this obvious villain, some slick-talking hustler with gold chains and processed hair. But Earl looked like somebody's regular grandpa. He was medium height, a little thick around the middle, with a warm smile and kind eyes. He was laughing at something Uncle Raymond said, and he had this easy, comfortable way about him. That made him more dangerous. "He looks so normal," I whispered to Tasha. "That's how they get you, girl. They look like somebody you can trust, and then, bam, they're signing legal documents with your grandma at the bank." We watched as Grandma Joyce brought Earl a plate of appetizers, and the way he looked at her made my stomach twist, because here's the thing, it looked genuine. The smile he gave her wasn't the smile of a con man. It was the smile of a man who genuinely cared about the woman in front of him. This was going to be harder than I thought. Dinner was called at 2 p.m. sharp, which in black people time means we actually sat down around 2:47. The dining room table was extended to its full length, and there were 2 additional card tables set up for the overflow. Grandma sat at the head of the table, with Earl on her right. I made sure Tasha and I were positioned directly across from them, perfect vantage point for observation and interrogation. The food was, as always, immaculate. Fried turkey and baked ham, macaroni and cheese that would make you slap your mama, greens cooked with smoked turkey necks, candied yams with the marshmallows on top, dressing that was more butter than bread, cranberry sauce, the good kind from scratch, not that canned garbage, rolls so fluffy they could double as pillows, and green bean casserole that Aunt Patricia made even though nobody asked her to and everybody would politely avoid. Uncle Raymond said grace, which turned into a full sermon about gratitude and family, and ended with a not-so-subtle reference to protecting what our ancestors built. Grandma shot him a look that could have curdled milk. For the first 30 minutes, everything was normal. People ate, laughed, caught up on gossip, and argued about whether the Cowboys had any chance this season. They didn't. Earl fit right in, telling stories about his time in Detroit and complimenting everyone's cooking. He was charming. Too charming. Then my Aunt Patricia, bless her unsubtle heart, decided to start the interrogation. "So, Earl," she said loudly, interrupting 3 separate conversations. "What exactly do you do for a living?" The table got quiet. Everyone knew what was happening. Earl didn't miss a beat. "I'm retired now, but I spent 30 years in business consulting. Helped small businesses with their operations, financial planning, that sort of thing." "What kind of businesses?" Tasha asked, playing her part perfectly. "Oh, all kinds. Restaurants, retail shops, service companies. I specialized in helping family-owned businesses transition to the next generation." I had to give it to him. That was smooth. He'd basically just described exactly what we were worried about him doing to Big Mamas. "How interesting," I said, loading my tone with just enough skepticism. "So you must know a lot about restaurant management then." "I've picked up a thing or two over the years," he smiled at Grandma. "Though I have to say, Joyce here knows more about running a successful restaurant than anyone I've ever met. Big Mama's is something special." Grandma beamed. "Earl has been such a help these past few weeks. He's given me some wonderful advice about modernizing our systems." "What kind of modernizing?" Uncle Raymond asked, his voice tight. "Well, for instance, I suggested Joyce look into digital ordering systems and update the point-of-sale technology. The restaurant is still using equipment from 2003, and I've been helping her understand some of the tax advantages available to small businesses." There it was. The tax advantages. That's probably how he convinced her to transfer ownership. "Grandma," I said carefully, "have you made any legal changes to the restaurant recently?" She set down her fork, and I knew we'd crossed a line. "We're not doing this at Thanksgiving dinner." "Joyce, they're just worried about you," Earl said gently. "It's okay. They should be worried. You've built something incredible, and they want to protect it." Was he really trying to play the understanding boyfriend card? "We know about the ownership transfer," Tasha blurted out. We know you put the restaurant in Earl's name." The table erupted. People gasped, others started talking all at once, and Aunt Patricia stood up so fast she almost knocked over the green bean casserole that nobody was eating anyway. "You did what?" Uncle Raymond's voice boomed. "Mama, tell me this isn't true." Grandma Joyce stood up, her face a mixture of anger and hurt. "This is exactly why I didn't tell y'all. Because I knew you'd react like this." "Because it's crazy," I said, standing up too. "Grandma, you barely know this man. You've been dating for 2 months, and you signed over a 5-6-year-old family business to him? Don't talk about Earl like he's some stranger trying to take advantage of me," Grandma snapped. "Y'all don't know nothing about what he's done for me." "Then tell us," Tasha pleaded. "Help us understand, because from where we're sitting, this looks bad, Grandma. Real bad." Earl stood up slowly. "Maybe I should go." "No." Grandma grabbed his hand. "You stay right here. You're part of this family now." "Part of the family?" Uncle Raymond laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Mama, he's been around for 2 months. I've had leftovers in my fridge longer than that." "Raymond, watch your mouth in my house. It's not your house if you keep giving everything away to strangers." And just like that, Thanksgiving dinner descended into chaos. Everyone was yelling. Accusations were flying. Somebody knocked over the cranberry sauce, and little cousin Marcus was recording everything on his phone for TikTok until Aunt Patricia snatched it away from him. In the middle of all this, Earl did something unexpected. He walked out. Not in a dramatic storm-out way, but in a quiet, defeated way that made everyone stop yelling for a second. He grabbed his jacket from the coat rack and headed for the door. "Earl, wait," Grandma Joyce called out, but he just shook his head. "Joyce, I can't do this to your family. I won't be the reason y'all are divided on Thanksgiving." He looked around at all of us, and there was genuine sadness in his eyes. "Y'all are good people looking out for someone you love. I respect that, but maybe this was a mistake." He left, and the door clicking shut was the loudest sound in the suddenly silent house. Grandma Joyce stood there for a moment, staring at the closed door. Then she turned to look at all of us, and I'd never seen her look so disappointed. "I hope y'all are happy," she said quietly. "I finally found someone who makes me feel alive again after being alone for 8 years, and y'all just ran him off." "Grandma, we're just trying to protect you," I said softly. "From what? From being happy? From having someone to talk to at night? From not eating dinner alone every single evening?" Her voice broke. "Y'all think I don't know what you're worried about. You think I'm some old fool being taken advantage of. But you don't know Earl. You don't know what he's been through, or what he's given up to be here with me." "Then tell us," Tasha said. "Help us understand." Grandma sat back down heavily, suddenly looking every one of her 73 years. "Earl's wife died 5 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. They were married for 42 years. He lost everything, paying for her medical bills, trying every treatment, every specialist. He sold their house, his business, cashed out his retirement, and she died anyway." The room was silent now, everyone listening. When I met him at the senior center, he was volunteering in the kitchen, serving food to people who had even less than him. He lives in a 1-bedroom apartment with furniture from Goodwill. That Buick y'all like to make fun of? That's all he has left. But he never complained, never asked me for nothing. Grandma wiped her eyes. "The restaurant wasn't doing well. Y'all didn't know because I didn't want to worry nobody, but we were 3 months behind on property taxes. The city was about to put a lien on the building. Earl found out and he did something I couldn't believe." She pulled out a folder from the china cabinet and dropped it on the table. We all crowded around to look. Inside were bank statements, legal documents, and a check receipt. Earl took out a loan against his car, his only asset, and gave me $15,000 to save the restaurant. Didn't ask for nothing in return. Just said Big Mama's was too important to let die. My stomach dropped. "The ownership transfer?" Grandma continued. "That was my idea. I insisted on it. Told him if he was going to save my business, then he deserved to be a partner in it. Told him it was only fair." "But Grandma," I started, my voice shaky. His background check showed what? That he's been divorced 4 times? That his ex-wives filed restraining orders? Grandma's voice was sharp. Did your little investigation tell you why? We were silent. Earl's first wife left him for his business partner and tried to take everything in the divorce out of spite. His second wife was an alcoholic who became violent, and he had to get a restraining order first, which she then filed a counterclaim for as revenge. His third wife embezzled $100,000 from his consulting business and tried to frame him for it. The fourth marriage lasted 6 months because she only wanted a green card. Grandma looked at each of us in turn. That man has been hurt and used more times than anyone should have to endure. And when he finally found someone who made him want to try again, her family treated him like a criminal on Thanksgiving. The guilt was crushing. We'd been so sure we were protecting Grandma that we never stopped to consider we might be wrong. The Shell Company? Grandma pulled out another document. Jenkins Enterprises is a nonprofit. Earl started it 3 years ago to help elderly people in the community with financial planning and fraud prevention. He does it for free because he doesn't want anyone else to lose everything like he did. Uncle Raymond sat down hard, his face ashen. Aunt Patricia was crying. Tasha looked at me, and I could see my own horror reflected in her eyes. We'd messed up. We'd messed up bad. I'm going to go check on him, I said, grabbing my coat. We all should, Tasha added. Grandma shook her head. No, you've done enough for one day. I'll go. Grandma, please, I said. Let us at least try to fix this. She looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. He's probably at the restaurant. It's the only other place he knows in this city. I drove to Big Mama's Soul Food Kitchen with Tasha in the passenger seat. We didn't talk, both of us processing what we'd just learned. The restaurant was closed for Thanksgiving, but when we pulled up, we could see lights on inside. Earl was sitting at one of the booths, staring at a photo on the wall. It was a picture of my great-grandmother, Big Mama herself, standing in front of the restaurant on opening day in 1967. She was wearing her best Sunday dress and the biggest smile you ever saw. I knocked on the glass, and Earl looked up. For a second, I thought he might not let us in, but he got up and unlocked the door. "Y'all need something?" he asked. Not unkindly, but not warmly either. "We need to apologize," I said. "We were wrong. About everything." Earl nodded slowly. "Y'all were protecting your grandmother. Can't fault you for that. But we can fault ourselves for not listening," Tasha said. "For not giving you a chance. For assuming the worst." "I'm used to it," Earl said, with a sad smile. "When you've been married 4 times, people make assumptions. It's easier to think I'm the problem than to consider that sometimes life just deals you a bad hand over and over. Grandma told us about your wife," I said. "About the medical bills and the loan you took out for the restaurant. Earl, that was. I don't even have words for how selfless that was." He shook his head. "It wasn't selfless. Big Mama's matters. When Joyce first brought me here, told me the history of this place, showed me pictures of your great-grandmother, I understood what this restaurant really is. It's not just a business. It's a testament. It's proof that a black woman in 1967 could build something lasting in a world that didn't want her to succeed." Earl walked over to the wall of photos, dozens of images chronicling the restaurant's history. Family celebrations, community events, civil rights leaders who'd eaten here, regular customers who'd become family. "My wife and I always dreamed of owning a restaurant," he continued. "She loved to cook, made the best peach cobbler you ever tasted. We had plans, you know? We were going to open a little place after I retired. But cancer doesn't care about your plans." He turned to look at us. "When Joyce told me the restaurant was in trouble, that the city was going to take it, I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't watch another dream die. So I did what I could. And we repaid you by accusing you of being a con artist at Thanksgiving dinner," I said. "Earl, I am so sorry. We should have trusted Grandma's judgment. We should have given you a chance. Should have asked questions before making assumptions," Tasha added. Earl was quiet for a moment. Can I tell y'all something? When I first met Joyce at the senior center, I wasn't looking for romance. I was just trying to get through each day, you know? After my wife died, I didn't think I'd ever feel anything again. But Joyce? Man, she just lit up every room she walked into, made everyone around her smile. And when she smiled at me, I felt alive for the first time in 5 years. She loves you, I said. Like, really loves you. We could see it at dinner before everything went sideways. I love her too, Earl said simply. And I understand why y'all were worried. In your position, with your information, I probably would have thought the same thing. But I need you to know, I would never hurt Joyce. I would never take advantage of her. She's the best thing that's happened to me in a long time, and I'm not about to mess that up. The door opened behind us, and Grandma Joyce walked in. She must have driven straight over after we left. Earl, she said, and her voice was soft and vulnerable in a way I'd never heard before. I am so sorry about my family. Joyce, you don't have to. Yes, I do. They were wrong to treat you like that. To not trust you. To not trust me. Earl crossed the room and took both her hands in his. They love you. They were protecting you. I can't be mad at that. But I'm mad, Grandma said. I'm mad that we can't just be happy without everyone questioning it. I'm mad that people look at us and see an old woman being fooled instead of two people who found each other at the right time. Grandma, I said, stepping forward, we were wrong. Not just about Earl, but about you. We treated you like you couldn't make your own decisions, like you needed us to protect you from your own life. That was disrespectful. And I'm sorry, Tasha nodded. We forgot that you've been making good decisions for 73 years, long before any of us were even born. Grandma looked at us, and slowly her expression softened. Y'all really did a whole background check on my man? Keisha from the DMV came through with all the tea, Tasha admitted. Earl laughed. Keisha Johnson? Short lady? Always wears her hair in braids? You know her. She's one of the people I help with financial planning through Jenkins Enterprises. I helped her set up a college fund for her daughter last year. Of course. Of course he did. So what now? I asked. How do we fix this? Grandma and Earl looked at each other, having one of those silent conversations that only couples can have. Y'all can start by coming back to the house and helping clean up the mess from dinner, Grandma said. And then tomorrow, we're all going to sit down like adults and talk about the restaurant's future. As a family. Because Earl is family now, whether y'all like it or not. We like it, I said quickly. We really do. Once we pulled our heads out of our behinds and actually paid attention. Language, Grandma chided. But she was smiling. We all went back to the house together. The rest of the family was still there, cleaning up and probably feeling just as guilty as we did. When we walked in with Earl, Uncle Raymond stood up. Earl, he said, extending his hand. I owe you an apology. A big one. I was out of line, and I'm sorry. Earl shook his hand. We're good, man. Family looks out for family. I respect that. Aunt Patricia approached next, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. I'm so sorry. I thought I was being helpful, but I was just being nosy and judgmental. You were being a lawyer, Earl said with a slight smile. Nothing wrong with that. Even Marcus came over, putting his phone away for once. Yo, that was really cool what you did with the loan. Real talk, that's like mad honorable. Thanks, young man. We spent the rest of the evening actually enjoying each other's company. Earl told stories about his consulting days, about the restaurants he'd helped save and the ones that couldn't be saved. He talked about his late wife with such love and respect that even the most skeptical family members were won over. And we listened, really listened, learning about the man who'd stolen our grandmother's heart. Around 10 p.m., as people started heading home with plates of leftovers, Grandma pulled me aside in the kitchen. Thank you, she said. For what? I'm the one who almost ruined your relationship. For caring enough to try to protect me. Even if you went about it all wrong, she smiled. And for being big enough to admit you were wrong and apologize. That takes character. I learned from the best, I said, hugging her. Grandma, can I ask you something? Anything, baby. Were you scared? When you decided to put the restaurant in Earl's name, were you scared that we might be right? That it could all go wrong? Grandma was quiet for a moment, terrified. But you know what I learned after your granddaddy died? Being scared isn't a reason not to live. Being scared isn't a reason not to love. I could protect my heart and protect this restaurant and protect everything I've built, and I could die alone having never taken another chance. Or I could trust someone, take a risk, and maybe, just maybe, find joy again. That's beautiful, Grandma. That's life, baby. And at 73, I don't have time to play it safe anymore. A week later, we all gathered at Big Mama's Soul Food Kitchen for an official family meeting. Earl and Grandma sat at the head of the table, and this time, we all actually listened. The restaurant needs updating, Grandma announced. The kitchen equipment is old. The dining room needs renovating, and we need to expand our online presence. Earl and I have been working on a business plan. Earl pulled out a folder, and I braced myself. But as he went through it, I realized he'd actually created something brilliant. He'd mapped out a 5-year growth plan that honored Big Mama's history while modernizing for the future. He'd identified grant opportunities for minority-owned businesses, suggested partnerships with local farms for fresh ingredients, and even proposed a catering division. "This is really good," Uncle Raymond admitted, studying the projections. "Like, really, really good." "Earl knows what he's doing," Grandma said proudly. "I do," Earl agreed. "But I also know this isn't just my restaurant. It belongs to all of you, which is why Joyce and I have decided to restructure the ownership." He slid documents across the table. "We're creating a family trust. The restaurant will be owned by the trust, managed by a board made up of family members, with Joyce as president and me as vice president and business consultant. This way, no one person can make unilateral decisions, and the restaurant stays in the family forever." I looked at the documents, then at Earl. "You're giving up sole ownership?" "I never wanted sole ownership," he said. "I just wanted to save the restaurant. This way, it's protected legally and financially, and y'all can all have a say in its future." Tasha raised her hand like we were in school. "Can I be on the board? I have ideas about social media marketing." "Already listed you as social media director," Earl said with a grin. By the end of the meeting, we'd all signed the trust documents, elected our board members, and started planning a grand reopening for January. Earl had not only saved Big Mama's, he'd brought our family together in a way we hadn't been in years. As we were leaving, I pulled Earl aside. "Thank you," I said, "for everything. For loving Grandma, for saving the restaurant, and for forgiving us for being terrible to you." "You weren't terrible," Earl said. "You were family. And family is messy and complicated and sometimes gets it wrong. But family also shows up. Family apologizes. Family tries to do better. Y'all did all of that. Can I ask you something? Why didn't you defend yourself at Thanksgiving? When we were accusing you of all that stuff, you could have explained everything, but you didn't." Earl smiled. "Because I knew Joyce would. I knew that when the time was right, she'd tell y'all the truth. And I knew that hearing it from her would mean more than hearing it from me. Sometimes the best thing you can do is trust the person you love to fight for you." That hit me harder than it should have. "That's some wisdom right there. That's what happens when you've been married 4 times, he said with a laugh. "You either learn from your mistakes, or you keep making them. I chose to learn." 6 months later, Big Mama's Soul Food Kitchen had its grand reopening. The place was packed with family, friends, and community members who'd been eating there for decades. We'd renovated the dining room while keeping all the historical photos and memorabilia. The kitchen had state-of-the-art equipment, and we'd added a small museum section telling the story of Big Mama and the restaurant's place in civil rights history. Grandma and Earl cut the ribbon together, both of them beaming with pride. Watching them, I realized something important. We'd spent so much time worrying about Grandma being taken advantage of that we almost prevented her from experiencing real love and partnership. We'd almost let our fear rob her of joy. That night, after all the customers had left and we were cleaning up, Grandma called us all together for a toast. "To family," she said, raising her glass of sweet tea. "The one you're born into, and the one you choose. To second chances and new beginnings. And to remembering that protecting the people you love sometimes means trusting them to make their own choices, even when you're scared. To family," we all echoed. Earl put his arm around Grandma's shoulders, and she leaned into him with a contentment that needed no explanation. And in that moment, I understood what Big Mama must have felt when she first opened this restaurant all those years ago. Not just pride in building something lasting, but joy in sharing it with the people you love. The moral of this whole messy, beautiful story? Love makes you vulnerable, whether you're 25 or 73. And sometimes the people who show up to protect you from heartbreak need to step back and let you take the risk anyway, because a life without risk is a life half-lived. And our grandmother, who'd already lived through Jim Crow, raised a family, built a business, and survived being widowed, deserved to live fully. Earl wasn't a con artist. He was just a man who'd been hurt before, trying to love again. And Grandma wasn't a foolish old woman being taken advantage of. She was a wise woman who knew that the biggest risk in life isn't trusting the wrong person, it's never trusting anyone at all. We learned that day that assumptions are dangerous, especially when they're wrapped in love and concern. We thought we were being protective, but we were really being controlling. We thought we knew better, but we were really just scared of change. And here's the thing nobody talks about: when your elders find love later in life, it's uncomfortable for us younger folks. We want our parents and grandparents frozen in time, playing the roles we've assigned them. We don't want to think about them having romance, taking risks, or making decisions that don't include our input. But they're whole people, with whole lives that existed long before we showed up and will continue whether we approve or not. 3 months after the grand reopening, Earl and Grandma Joyce got married. It was a small ceremony at Big Mama's, right there in the restaurant, surrounded by family and the ghosts of all the history those walls had witnessed. Grandma wore a cream-colored dress that made her look like royalty. Earl wore a navy suit, no velour tracksuit in sight, and when he said his vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the building. "Joyce," he said, his voice strong and clear, "you taught me that it's never too late to start over. That love doesn't have an expiration date. That taking a chance on someone is always worth it, even when the world tells you to play it safe. You saved me just as much as I saved that restaurant. Maybe more." Grandma's vows were simpler but just as powerful. "Earl, you saw me, not just a widow or a grandmother or a restaurant owner, but me, the woman I still am underneath all those roles. You reminded me that I'm allowed to want things for myself, that I'm allowed to be happy, that I'm allowed to live, and for that, I will love you for whatever time we have left." Uncle Raymond officiated. He'd gotten ordained online specifically for this occasion, and when he pronounced them husband and wife, the entire restaurant erupted in applause and celebration. Marcus live-streamed the whole thing, and it ended up going viral. Grandma's second chance at love became a whole moment on Black Twitter, with people sharing their own stories of elders finding love later in life. But the best part wasn't the viral moment or the beautiful ceremony. It was what happened after, during the reception, when Earl pulled out a frame covered with a cloth. "I have a gift for my new wife," he announced, "and for this family that has welcomed me in despite my questionable taste in tracksuits." Everyone laughed, and he pulled off the cloth to reveal a painting. It was Big Mama herself, recreated from that 1,967 photograph, but painted in vibrant colors that made her practically leap off the canvas. She was standing in front of the restaurant, but behind her, painted in translucent strokes, were all of us, every generation of the family who'd come after her, including Earl now, All of us, standing on the foundation she'd built. I commissioned this from a local artist, Earl explained, because I wanted everyone to remember that what Big Mama started wasn't just a restaurant. She started a legacy. She created a space where family could gather, where the community could come together, where love could be served alongside collard greens and cornbread. And that legacy continues because of all of you. Grandma cried. We all cried. Even Marcus put down his phone to cry. The painting now hangs in the restaurant's entrance, the first thing you see when you walk in. And underneath it is a plaque that reads, Big Mama's Soul Food Kitchen, where family recipes and family bonds are equally sacred. Est. 1967. Renewed, 2024. As I'm sitting here now, writing this story down so I never forget the lessons we learned, I keep thinking about how close we came to ruining everything. How our fear almost cost Grandma her happiness. How our assumptions almost cost us Earl, who turned out to be exactly what our family needed. Tasha, who's now in charge of all the restaurant's social media and has tripled our online orders, likes to joke that we should thank Earl for not suing us for defamation. That man could have called a lawyer after that Thanksgiving disaster, she says. Instead, he called it water under the bridge and married into our crazy family anyway. Earl's response to that is always the same. Crazy families are the best families. They keep life interesting. And life is interesting now. The restaurant is thriving in ways it hasn't in years. We added Sunday brunch, which Earl suggested and which Grandma initially resisted but now loves because it brings in a whole new crowd. We started hosting community events, financial literacy workshops led by Earl through Jenkins Enterprises, cooking classes led by Grandma, and monthly open mic nights Marcus's idea, surprisingly good. Uncle Raymond works the floor on weekends, charming customers with the same unsolicited advice he used to give us, except now people pay for their meals, so they have to listen. Aunt Patricia handles all the legal paperwork and contracts, finally getting to use those law and order skills for something productive. Even Marcus found his calling, creating viral food videos that have brought customers from 3 states over. But more than the business success, the family is closer now. We have monthly board meetings that are really just excuses to eat together and catch up. We celebrate every milestone, big and small. And we've learned to ask questions before making assumptions, to trust before suspecting, to love before judging. Earl taught us that. Not through preaching or lecturing, but through showing up every day with integrity, kindness, and patience. Through loving our grandmother so well that we couldn't help but respect him. Through honoring Big Mama's legacy by making sure it would survive for generations to come. Last Sunday, after brunch service, I was sitting with Grandma and Earl in one of the booths, going over some marketing ideas. A young couple came in, maybe in their mid-70s, and I watched as they looked around the restaurant with wonder. Is this really the Big Mama's? The woman asked. The one from the civil rights era? The very same, Grandma said proudly. My grandmother started it in 1967. We drove 2 hours to eat here, the man said. We saw the video of your wedding online, and it inspired us. We've been together for 5 years, but we've been scared to get married. People keep telling us we're too old, that it's not worth it at our age. Earl stood up and walked over to them. Let me tell you something. I got married at 67 years old for the 5th time. The first 4 didn't work out for various complicated reasons, but this one? He looked at Grandma with so much love it was almost embarrassing. This one is teaching me that it's never too late to get it right, that age is just a number, that love is always worth the risk. The woman started crying, and her partner put his arm around her. Thank you, she said. We needed to hear that. They stayed for 3 hours, eating their way through half the menu, talking to us about their fears and hopes and dreams. By the time they left, they'd set a wedding date and made us promise to come. That's the 4th couple this month, Tasha said after they left. Grandma and Earl are out here becoming relationship goals for the senior citizen set. We're relationship goals for everybody. Earl corrected with a grin. Age ain't nothing but a number. Don't start, Grandma warned, but she was smiling. Your hip ain't what it used to be. Let's not pretend we're spring chickens. Speak for yourself. I feel 25. You look 67. You love it. I do. Watching them banter, seeing the easy affection between them, I'm reminded of what almost didn't happen. If we'd succeeded in running Earl off that Thanksgiving, Grandma would have forgiven us eventually, but she would have lost something precious. And Earl would have gone back to his one-bedroom apartment with his Goodwill furniture, convinced that maybe he wasn't meant to find love again after all. But here's what I really learned from all of this, and it's the lesson I want to leave you with. Sometimes the people we're trying to protect don't need protection. They need support. They need trust. They need us to believe in their ability to make good decisions about their own lives. Grandma didn't need us to save her from Earl. She needed us to trust that she knew what she was doing. That 73 years of life experience had taught her how to read people, how to assess risk, how to make choices that served her well-being. And when we finally got out of our own way and actually looked at what was in front of us, not what we feared, but what was actually real, we saw a good man trying to love a good woman. We saw someone who'd been hurt before taking a chance on connection again. We saw two people building something beautiful together. The restaurant being in Earl's name wasn't a con. It was a partnership. It was Grandma saying, "You saved this place, so you deserve to be a part of it." It was Earl saying, "Your family legacy matters, so let's make sure it's protected forever." It was both of them saying, "We're in this together." And that's what family is supposed to be, right? Being in it together. Not controlling each other's choices, but supporting them. Not assuming the worst, but hoping for the best. Not letting fear dictate our actions, but letting love guide our responses. So yeah, Grandma put the family restaurant in her boyfriend's name, and it was the best decision she could have made because it brought us all closer together, taught us to trust her judgment, and gave us Earl, a man who turned out to be exactly the kind of person we needed in our family, even though we were too stubborn and scared to see it at first. These days, when people ask me about that viral Thanksgiving dinner and the drama that followed, I tell them the truth. We messed up. We let fear turn us into suspicious, judgmental people who almost cost our grandmother her happiness. But we learned. We grew. We apologized. And we became better because of it. And now? Now I make the best decisions of my life by asking myself one question. What would Grandma and Earl do? And the answer is always the same. They'd take the risk. They'd choose love. They'd trust the process. And they'd know that even when things look scary or uncertain, betting on people really betting on them is always worth it. Big Mama's Soul Food Kitchen is still standing strong, serving the best fried chicken and collard greens this side of anywhere. The family is still crazy, still loud, still all up in each other's business, but we're also more connected, more humble, and more willing to admit when we're wrong. And every Sunday, after brunch service ends, Grandma and Earl sit in that same booth where she first told him about possibly losing the restaurant. They hold hands across the table, share a slice of sweet potato pie, and talk about their week. Sometimes we join them. Sometimes we leave them alone. But every single time, I look at them and think, this is what love looks like. Not just romantic love, but family love. The kind that admits mistakes, the kind that forgives, the kind that shows up even when it's hard, the kind that trusts even when it's scary. And if an old woman putting a restaurant in her boyfriend's name can teach us all that, then maybe, just maybe, we needed that Thanksgiving dinner disaster after all. Because sometimes the best lessons come wrapped in chaos, served with a side of humble pie, and seasoned with the understanding that we don't know everything but we can always learn. Grandma Joyce and Earl Jenkins taught us that, and Big Mama's Soul Food Kitchen continues to serve it up, one plate at a time. The end. Like this video if it touched something in you. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about what it means to be human, to be family, and to choose love even when it's complicated. I'll see you next time.